Step out of the vehicle, now.
Officer, I'm just heading home. There is no cause for this.
I said get out of the car.
Robertson's voice cuts through the night air, demanding the engine be shut off. Keys placed on the dashboard, hands kept visible. Watkins responds calmly that everything has already been done, that he's simply heading home. Robertson insists the compliance means nothing, orders him out of the vehicle. Bodycam footage timestamps 11:43 p.m., October 22nd, 2025, along Martin Luther King Jr. Drive in Atlanta. A composed black driver, James Watkins, 48, senior law enforcement commander, remains seated in his vehicle. Following directives as a rookie officer intensifies an encounter requiring no escalation. Inquiries become commands. Assumptions override protocol. By the time backup is called, the power dynamic is already tilted, triggering a cascade that will terminate one career and quietly validate another. Before we go further, if you believe officers should be held accountable when they cross the line, drop a comment saying accountability, hit subscribe, and let me know where you're watching from. Your engagement sends a message. Overreach has consequences. Tomorrow's story will challenge everything you think you know about justice. The officer on scene is Kevin Robertson, 24, 7 months removed from academy graduation, still measuring his authority in volume and repetition. His flashlight sweeps the interior longer than procedure demands. His stance squares the doorframe, rigid, uncompromising. He speaks before his approach is complete. Robertson wants a stop that justifies itself retroactively. He believes certainty projects strength. He believes hesitation invites disrespect. Robertson's boots scuff asphalt as he circles the sedan. The street is empty. No pedestrians. No moving traffic. Only the hum of a distant freeway and the intermittent crackle of his radio. Storefronts are dark. Streetlights cast amber pools across cracked pavement. The vehicle sits legally parked, engine silent, no visible violations. Yet Robertson's mind catalogs risk. Late hour, unmarked stretch of road. Driver matching no description from any recent call. Suspicion without substance. The flashlight beam traces the dashboard, the passenger seat, the floorboards. Robertson leans closer, angling his head to peer through tinted rear windows. Nothing registers as contraband. No furtive movements. No smell of narcotics. Still, he circles again, slower this time, as if proximity alone might reveal justification. Watkins sits motionless, hands resting atop the steering wheel, fingers spread wide. His posture is deliberate, unthreatening, compliant, rehearsed through decades of understanding how power reads stillness. His breathing remains even. His gaze tracks Robertson's movements through the side mirror without turning his head. He has been here before in different cities, under different circumstances, always with the same awareness. Any motion misconstrued becomes ammunition. Robertson stops at the driver's window, flashlight angled downward. The beam cuts across Watkins's face, forcing a squint, an involuntary flinch. Robertson notes it, files it away as nervousness. He taps the glass with the flashlight's edge. Not a knock, a demand. Robertson orders license and registration. Watkins reaches slowly toward the glove compartment, announcing each movement before executing it, narrating his own actions like a suspect in an interrogation training video. Robertson's hand drifts toward his holster, not gripping, just hovering. The gesture is reflexive, theatrical, meant to communicate readiness. Watkins extracts the documents, extends them through the cracked window. Without comment, Robertson steps back, radio mic already at his lips, reciting the license number in clipped cadence. Dispatch responds within seconds. Clean record, no warrants, registration current. Robertson acknowledges the transmission, but does not move. He stands 3 feet from the vehicle, staring at the license, as if the plastic card might reveal something the database did not. Robertson asks what Watkins is doing out here. Watkins answers without inflection that he's heading home, that he stopped to take a phone call, nothing more. Robertson's jaw tightens. The explanation is plausible, mundane, impossible to refute, yet it frustrates him. He is committed to the stop. Called it in, positioned himself as the officer who sees what others miss. To release Watkins now feels like retreat, like admitting misjudgment. So he presses, Robertson points out as a high-crime area. Late at night, that Watkins is parked alone, asks if Watkins understands why that looks suspicious. Watkins does not respond immediately. He understands a trap. Agreement validates a stop, disagreement escalates it. So he offers only acknowledgement, a slight nod, non-committal, preserving both dignity and de-escalation. Robertson interprets the silence as defiance. Robertson commands Watkins to step out of the vehicle. The command arrives without legal foundation. No probable cause. No reasonable articulable suspicion beyond geography and hour. Watkins knows this. Robertson likely knows it too, or would if training had sunk deeper than instinct. But knowledge and action diverge here, on this dark street, under these circumstances. Watkins complies because refusal invites force, and force invites injury, and injury invites justification written in police reports that reframe resistance as aggression. He opens the door slowly, plants both feet on asphalt before standing, keeps his hands visible throughout. Robertson steps back, creating distance, positioning himself at an angle that suggests tactical awareness without clear threat assessment. He gestures toward the rear of the vehicle. Robertson orders Watkins to turn around, places hands on the trunk. Watkins moves as instructed, his commander insignia hidden beneath civilian clothing, his decades of command compressed into this single moment of enforced submission. Robertson conducts a pat-down methodically, shoulders, ribs, waistband, pockets, finding nothing because there is nothing to find. The search concludes, but Robertson does not step away. He lingers, replaying his own actions, searching for the next move that justifies the previous ones. The radio crackles. Robertson keys the mic, requests backup for officer safety. The dispatcher confirms, logs a request, assigns the nearest unit. Estimated arrival for minutes. Watkins remains at the trunk, hands flat against cold metal, exhaling slowly through his nose. He counts seconds, calculates how many procedural violations have accumulated, estimates when intervention will arrive and from whom. Robertson returns to the patrol car. Seated but watchful, door ajar, eyes fixed on Watkins through the windshield. He begins drafting a narrative in his mind, constructing justifications, shaping the encounter into something defensible. Suspicious activity, uncooperative demeanor, need for caution in a high-crime area. The words feel rehearsed because they are standard language from academy scenarios, repurposed for a stop that never required them. Watkins shifts his weight slightly, easing pressure on his left knee, a 48-year-old man's quiet concession to discomfort. He does not speak, does not ask how much longer, does not invoke rank or demand explanation. The pilot program parameters are explicit. Intervene only if safety is compromised. Allow scenarios to unfold organically. Assess officer decision-making under real conditions. This moment is data, uncomfortable, demeaning, but data nonetheless. Blue lights appear in the distance, growing brighter, accompanied by the low growl of an engine downshifting. The backup unit rolls to a stop 15 feet behind Robertson's patrol car, angle for coverage, headlights washing across the scene. The driver's door opens. Footsteps approach, measured and deliberate. Sergeant Christopher Dorsey has arrived. Dorsey's arrival shifts the frequency of the encounter. His eyes sweep the scene. No restraints, no drawn weapons, no citation being written. Just a man standing at a trunk and a rookie standing watch. Dorsey's expression remains neutral, but his internal assessment begins immediately. What violation justified this, and why does it feel incomplete? Dorsey walks the perimeter slowly, observing angles Robertson has already covered, reconstructing the stop's progression from physical evidence. Tire position relative to curb, no skid marks suggesting erratic driving, no visible damage indicating collision. He notes Watkins' posture, compliant but not submissive, patient but not passive, and Robertson's stance, which carries tension disproportionate to the scene's actual threat level. Robertson approaches, eager to brief, to establish narrative control before questions expose gaps. Dorsey listens without interrupting, his 22 years in patrol teaching him that what officers omit often matters more than what they report. Robertson describes suspicious activity, high crime location, late hour, evasive answers. Dorsey's expression does not shift, but his silence becomes pointed. He waits for the legal justification that never arrives. Dorsey asks what traffic violation initiated the stop. Robertson hesitates, admits none, that the vehicle was parked. Dorsey's gaze sharpens. He asks what articulable suspicion justified detention. The question hangs between them, unanswered because unanswerable. Robertson pivots to officer safety, to area crime statistics, to the intangible sense that something fell off. Dorsey has heard these justifications before, from younger officers who mistake intuition for probable cause, who conflate presence with criminality. He turns toward Watkins, noting the calm that has persisted despite prolonged detention. Dorsey asks politely to see Watkins' identification. Watkins reaches into his jacket pocket slowly, extracting credentials. Not just a driver's license, but the leather bifold that carries weight beyond civilian documentation. He hands it to Dorsey, whose eyes scan the ID before stopping, focusing, recalculating. Commander James Watkins, Atlanta Police Department, Zone 4. The rank registers instantly, shifting Dorsey's demeanor from professional to deferential. Not because hierarchy demands it, but because the situation's absurdity suddenly crystallizes. Dorsey addresses him formally as Commander Watkins, with clear respect. The title lands like a gavel. Robertson's head snaps toward Dorsey, confusion rippling across his face. He steps closer, peering at the credentials, reading the rank twice as if repetition might alter it. His mouth opens, closes, searching for words that might reframe the encounter, that might reposition his actions as reasonable rather than reckless. Nothing comes. Dorsey returns the credentials, nods respectfully, tells Commander Watkins he's free to go and apologizes for the extended detention. Robertson moves forward, hand raised as if to physically halt the release. He insists Watkins is still detained, that he initiated the stop. Dorsey turns slowly, his voice dropping to a register that carries authority without volume. He asks Robertson based on what violation, pointing out that Robertson has articulated no cause, that the vehicle was legally parked, that the driver has been cooperative, that the stop should have concluded 10 minutes ago. Robertson's jaw tightens. He argues that Watkins is in a high-crime area, late at night, alone. Dorsey's response is surgical. He states that none of which constitutes reasonable suspicion, that the stop is over. But what would you do in Commander Watkins' position? Remain silent, enduring the process, or speak up, invoking rank immediately? Drop silent, or speak in the comments and tell us why. Your answer reveals how you navigate power when it's stacked against you. Watkins remains near the trunk, listening but not intervening, bound by parameters larger than this single stop. The pilot program was designed to test exactly this, how officers wield discretion when oversight seems absent, when authority appears unchecked. Every second of Robertson's escalation has been captured, not just on Bodycam, but in the framework of a departmental experiment assessing bias, restraint, and judgment under pressure. Watkins's role requires restraint that exceeds even his decades of training. He must endure, document, and allow consequences to unfold through proper channels rather than immediate assertion. Robertson shifts tactics, appealing to procedure. He insists he's already called this in, that he can't just release Watkins without cause. Dorsey's patience fractures slightly. He counters that Robertson detained Watkins without cause, that releasing him corrects that error, tells him to step aside. The command is unambiguous. Robertson retreats 2 steps, but his posture remains defiant, shoulders squared, gaze fixed on Watkins as if visual scrutiny might retroactively justify detention. Dorsey turns back to Watkins, lowers his voice. Dorsey apologizes again, tells the commander he's free to leave whenever he's ready. Watkins nods once, returns to his vehicle without comment. He settles into the driver's seat, starts the engine, checks mirrors with the same methodical calm that has defined the encounter. As he pulls away, Robertson watches, fists clenched, jaw working through unspoken objections. Dorsey remains beside him, silent, letting the moment's implications settle. Dorsey radios dispatch, requesting a supervisor to his location, clarifying no emergency, but stating they need a shift commander on scene. The radio acknowledges. Robertson turns sharply, demanding to know why Dorsey is calling a supervisor. Dorsey's gaze remains forward. He explains that the stop violated policy and possibly civil rights, that a 22-year commander was detained without cause, that Robertson needs immediate remedial training or removal from patrol before this happens again. Robertson's face flushes. He insists he was doing his job. Dorsey finally looks at him directly. He tells Robertson his job is to enforce law, not Project Fear, that Robertson confused compliance with guilt and geography with criminality, declares that's not policing but profiling. The accusation detonates between them. Robertson's mouth opens to protest, but Dorsey raises a hand, silencing him. They stand in the amber streetlight glow, the boulevard empty except for the weight of procedural failure settling over asphalt. Somewhere 2 blocks away, Watkins is pulled into another parking spot, engine idling, phone already in hand. The call he places is brief, factual, devoid of emotion. He reports the stop's details, confirms his safety, notes Robertson's badge number from memory. The recipient logs the information without commentary. The pilot program has generated another data point. Robertson paces near his patrol car, replaying decisions, searching for the moment justification slipped away. Dorsey completes his preliminary notes, time-stamping observations, documenting statements, preparing for the supervisor's arrival. The Bodycam footage will corroborate everything, stripping away ambiguity, leaving only the raw sequence of escalation without cause. Headlights approach from the west. Another marked unit, this one bearing the lieutenant's insignia. The supervisor has arrived. Lieutenant Rebecca Ellis steps from her vehicle with the efficiency of an officer who has managed crisis scenes for 17 years. She scanned the environment first. 2 patrol cars, 1 sergeant, 1 rookie, no detained subject, no visible emergency. Her expression remains neutral, but her assessment has already begun. Dorsey approaches, briefing her in low tones, factual and stripped of editorial commentary. Ellis listens, asks clarifying questions, requests to review Robertson's Bodycam footage later. Then she turns to Robertson. Ellis instructs Robertson to walk her through his initial contact. Robertson recounts the stop, his narrative emphasizing suspicion, officer safety, and area crime trends. Ellis listens without interrupting, her silence allowing gaps to emerge naturally. When he finishes, she asks the question Dorsey posed earlier. Ellis asks what traffic violation or observed criminal activity justified the initial detention. Robertson hesitates, cycling through the same deflections. Late hour, high crime area, evasive demeanor. Ellis's expression does not change, but her follow-up question cuts deeper. Ellis clarifies that Robertson detained a legally parked driver without probable cause or reasonable suspicion. The phrasing forces acknowledgement. Robertson nods, then attempts justification, explaining he thought Watkins might be involved in something, that it was better to check than ignore it. Ellis's response is measured. She states that proactive policing requires articulable suspicion, that what Robertson described as assumption based on time and location, that it's not enough and never enough, that when that driver turns out to be a department commander, it exposes a fundamental lapse in judgment. Robertson's defensiveness surfaces. He asks how he was supposed to know Watkins was a commander. Ellis's answer is immediate. She tells him he wasn't supposed to know, that Watkins's rank is irrelevant, that the issue isn't who he was, but that Robertson would have treated any driver the same way without cause, that's the problem. The distinction lands heavily. Robertson's gaze drops to the pavement, the weight of error settling across his shoulders. Ellis continues, her tone firm but not punitive. Ellis asks why Robertson called backup. Robertson answers for officer safety. Ellis presses, asking based on what threat. Robertson has no answer. The silence stretches, punctuated only by distant traffic. Ellis glances at Dorsey, who nods confirmation. She returns her focus to Robertson. Ellis informs Robertson he's being removed from patrol effective immediately, instructs him to report to precinct, surrenders Bodycam to the shift supervisor, and await administrative review, that he'll be placed on desk duty pending investigation. Robertson's face drains color. He insists this is because Watkins is commander. Ellis's correction is swift. She clarifies this is because Robertson violated policy, that Commander Watkins's rank amplifies visibility, but the violation exists independent of his identity, that if this had been any other driver, the outcome should be identical, that's the standard they're required to uphold. She dismisses him with a gesture. Robertson returns to his patrol car, movement slow, mechanized by the realization that career trajectory has just altered irrevocably. He drives away, taillights fading into Atlanta's late-night sprawl. Dorsey and Ellis remain at the scene, Ellis reviewing notes on her tablet. Dorsey leaning against his unit, processing the encounter's implications. Ellis looks up. Ellis asks if the body cam footage is clear. Dorsey nods, confirming every second is documented. Ellis exhales slowly, noting this will go to Internal Affairs for full review, probably Training Division 2 for instructional purposes. Dorsey agrees, calling the stop textbook escalation without foundation, rookie mistakes compounded by refusal to de-escalate even after backup arrived. Ellis closes her tablet, asking if Commander Watkins has filed a report yet. Dorsey confirms it's already done, that Watkins called it in from his vehicle 2 blocks away, calm and factual with no emotion, exactly how one would expect a 22-year veteran to handle it. Ellis pauses, considering. She remarks that Watkins could have ended this the moment Robertson asked for her ID, wonders why he didn't. Dorsey shrugs, speculating that maybe Watkins wanted to see how it played out, that maybe he was testing them as much as Robertson. The speculation lingers between them, neither confirming nor denying, both aware that commanders occasionally observe rather than intervene, that oversight sometimes operates invisibly until consequences demand visibility. Ellis returns to her vehicle, instructs Dorsey to complete a supplemental report by end of shift. Dorsey acknowledges, watches her drive away, then settles into his own unit to document the encounter. His report is methodical. Timestamps, direct quotes where memory permits, observations about body language and procedural lapses. He notes Robertson's repeated requests for justification that never materialized, Watkins' unwavering compliance, the absence of any factor that warranted escalation. The narrative concludes with a recommendation for remedial training and policy review. Dorsey submits the report electronically, watches a confirmation screen, then clears the call and returns to patrol. Across the city, Watkins sits in his home office, his own report completed and filed. He pours coffee, reviews the pilot program's protocols, considers how this incident will be anonymized and presented during training. The discomfort of detention has faded, replaced by the clinical assessment of data collected. Response times, escalation triggers, intervention effectiveness. The program was designed to expose exactly what Robertson demonstrated: judgment clouded by bias, authority wielded without restraint, procedure abandoned in favor of assumption. Watkins saves his notes, shuts down his computer, and stands at his window overlooking the city. Somewhere out there, Robertson is processing failure. Somewhere else, Dorsey is documenting accountability. And here, in this quiet room, the machinery of institutional correction begins its slow, necessary work. The conference room is windowless, lit by overhead fluorescents that cast no shadows. 6 officers sit around a rectangular table, tablets open, notebooks ready. The screen at the room's front displays a pause frame from Bodycam footage, Robertson's flashlight illuminating an empty vehicle interior. The incident has been anonymized, names redacted, badge numbers obscured, only actions visible. The training coordinator begins playback. The footage unfolds silently at first, allowing observation without narration, forcing viewers to catalog missteps before being told what they are. The initial approach, the prolonged detention, the pat-down without cause, the backup request absent threat. 15 minutes compressed into a teaching moment that will circulate through the department for months. The coordinator pauses at key intervals, prompting discussion. He asks what legal threshold justifies the search. None is offered. He asks what de-escalation opportunities were missed. Several are identified. He asks what bias might inform these decisions. The question hangs heavily, inviting acknowledgement without accusation, framing the stop as symptom rather than anomaly. One participant asks whether rank should have changed the outcome. The coordinator's answer is unequivocal. Rank is irrelevant to legality. The stop was unjustified whether the driver commanded a precinct or delivered packages. The only difference is that commanders possess knowledge and resources to demand accountability. Most drivers do not. The footage resumes, Dorsey's arrival, the credential check, the power shift, Robertson's reluctance, the supervisor's intervention. Each frame reinforces a lesson. Authority without legal foundation is indistinguishable from abuse. The session concludes with procedural reminders, policy citations, and an anonymous survey assessing participants' recognition of similar patterns in their own stops. Across the building, Robertson sits at a desk processing administrative paperwork, his patrol duties suspended indefinitely. The administrative review has been swift and decisive. Placement on probation, mandatory retraining, reassignment pending successful completion. He has been offered the option to resign in lieu of termination. After 3 days of deliberation, he submits his resignation. No press release is issued. No public statement explains his departure. The institutional correction occurs quietly, internally, preserving careers for those who demonstrate capacity to learn, while removing those who do not. Watkins attends a training session's second iteration, not as subject, but as facilitator. He provides context for the pilot program's design, explains how state scenarios and real encounters both generate data, emphasizes that the program's goal is not punishment but prevention. He speaks without bitterness, framing his attention as temporary discomfort in service of long-term institutional improvement. A participant asks whether he considered invoking rank immediately. Watkins's answer is deliberate. Invoking rank would have ended the stop, but provided no data on whether the officer could self-correct. The program's value lies in observing unfiltered judgment, measuring discretion when no commander is visibly present. His restraint was strategic, not passive. Dorsey attends the same session, his intervention now codified as exemplary response. He explains his thought process, assess scene, identify procedural gaps, intervene diplomatically, escalate to supervisor when necessary. His actions become training protocol, a roadmap for mid-level supervision confronting junior officer overreach. The sessions proliferate throughout the department. The anonymized footage circulates through roll calls, briefings, and academy lectures. The stop becomes shorthand for systemic risk. How unchecked authority erodes community trust. How procedural lapses invite legal liability. How bias, conscious or unconscious, shapes encounters with consequences extending far beyond individual stops. Months pass. Robertson's name fades from departmental memory. His tenure brief and cautionary. Dorsey receives commendation for professional intervention. His role in de-escalation highlighted during performance reviews. Watkins continues command, the pilot program expanding to additional zones, generating more data, refining training protocols. The incident's impact is measured not in headlines but in metrics. Reduced complaint rates in participating zones, increased supervisor intervention during questionable stops, elevated awareness of bias indicators during patrol decision-making. The machinery of institutional self-correction operates slowly, imperfectly, but measurably. Progress is incremental, documented in spreadsheets and survey responses rather than dramatic reform announcements. On a Friday evening, 8 months after the stop, Watkins drives along Martin Luther King Jr. Drive. The street looks unchanged. Same amber streetlights, same empty storefronts, same cracked pavement. He slows near the spot where Robertson detained him, noting nothing remarkable about the location, nothing that inherently justified suspicion. He continues driving, merging into traffic, reflecting not on the indignity of detention, but on the utility of data it generated. The story concludes without climax because justice here is methodical rather than dramatic. Careers end quietly. Policies adjust incrementally. Training evolves through repetition. The pilot program continues, testing officers who do not know they're being tested, measuring discretion when oversight seems absent, documenting judgment for institutional review. Authority, the program confirms, is best demonstrated through restraint. Power, when misunderstood, escalates. Power, when properly wielded, de-escalates. The distinction defines effective policing. The distinction, when ignored, generates encounters like the one along Martin Luther King Jr. Drive, encounters that should never occur yet persist until systems force accountability. The boulevard remains quiet. The streetlights cast their amber glow. Somewhere in the city, A rookie officer approaches a legally parked vehicle, deciding whether to initiate contact or continue patrol. The choice would determine whether another training video is created or whether the lessons from this encounter have finally taken hold. The night offers no answer, only the opportunity for better judgment, one decision at a time. Tell us in the comments how you would have handled that stop, and subscribe for more real stories where one decision changes everything.